I'm sure. I'd like to call this January 18th Town of Lincoln Council meeting to order and welcome guests in the gallery and the press this evening and all of you who are watching this tomorrow on Cogeco. We have present this evening Councillor Timmers on my right, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Foster. On my far left, Councillor Pachariva, Councillor Renchima, and Councillor McMillan. Councillor Brunet is away in a sunny, warm spot, and we think that Councillor McPherson is on his way from Jordan, so we'll see. On my left is CAO Mike Kirkopoulos. On my right is Clerk William Colassa. And in the back the back seating, we have the Director of Finance, Bob Spadoni, and in the middle, Chuck Judson, the Facilities Manager, and Kathleen Dale, the Director of Planning. Are there any declarations of interest? There being none. Look at the minutes of Council's special meeting of December 21st. I have a motion.
If I might, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. I'd like to reiterate the pecuniary interest that I declared in the closed session meeting. So if the clerk could note that, that'd be good.
All right, that's fine. Thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. I have a motion moved by Councillor McMillan, seconded by Councillor Renchima, that the minutes of the December 21st, 2015 special meeting of Council, including the confidential addendum thereto, be adopted as circulated. Any questions? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. I think it's important for the audience watching to know that we have all of our followers in place now. Welcome, Mr. Fracchione. Happy New Year. I have a motion moved by Councillor Thompson, Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor McMillan, that the minutes of the December 21st, 2015 regular meeting of Council be adopted as circulated. Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. And Mr. Jaworski, welcome to you. Business arising from the minutes. From the Council's special meeting of December 21st, is there any business arising? And from the regular meeting of December 21st, is there any business arising? All right, we'll move on. There is no mayor's report this evening. There is no regional councilor's report, and by mutual agreement, there is no councilor's report. As ladies and gentlemen, we are mindful of the weather tonight, and we're going to move on to the core business. There are no delegations this evening. We have correspondence. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Thompson that correspondence from the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs dated January the 4th, 2016 regarding the Building Canada Fund Small Communities Fund be received. Are there any comments to the motion? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Foster, that correspondence from the region of Niagara dated January the 4th, 2016, regarding the 14th annual T. Roy Adams Humanitarian of the Year Award be received. Are there any questions or comments to the motion? there pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. And we have reports. The first report being the Economic Development and Planning Committee. Motion moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Thompson, that the minutes of the Economic Development and Planning Committee meeting of January the 11th, 2016 be adopted, and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. Our committee meeting of January the 11th, which was, I guess, also the first committee meeting of this new year, we had, first of all, Rena Mustachi, who's the Commissioner of Regional Planning and Development Services at Niagara Region. We also had Diana Marielli, who's the Regional Manager of Community Planning, and Brian Dick, who's the Regional Policy Planner at Niagara Region, all here, having a discussion with us about the regional growth strategy. They gave us a presentation, as well as we had a report that we dealt with later on within the meeting as well. I would say the discussions from that evening showed that, number one, the region is understanding a little more clearly the position that this council has taken in the past, that the theory of the Grow South strategy simply did not make sense. Continuing to invest in the South, of course, is a wise move, but understanding that the growth is going on in the North areas, St. Catharines, Grimsby, Niagara-on-the-Lake, Lincoln, is really quite important. So we had a chance to discuss that. We also, as we typically do when we get regional people here, we also asked a number of questions on transportation issues, on GO-Transit, I believe, was brought up as well, and a number of items like that, just because we had the right people here within the planning. So anyway, I was really quite pleased. We did have the three regional staff here for the evening. We also had a delegation from Mr. John Arians and Mr. Gabe DeSantis concerning the report PL 1601. They were not in agreement with the recommendation report that was coming back through from staff on that particular issue that was being dealt with, which was a change to the community improvement plan area within the center of Beamsville. Our suggestion from that meeting, and it was agreed upon by the applicants, was to go back and have a discussion with staff to work out some of the details. Unfortunately, sometimes when things are completely black and white, decisions are made on things, and sometimes it really is an important thing for applicants to have the good discussion with our staff to better understand what it is that's going on with a variety of things. So anyway, and my expectation is we will likely see a report back at one of our future planning meetings. We did deal with the establishing a growth strategy report under our correspondence. And as well, reports-wise, we had a variety of reports we were dealing with. Number one was the one that we deferred until later. The second report was on smart growth, and it was a report that the region and the municipalities had put together concerning Provincial Bill 73, which is Smart Growth for Our Communities Act 2015. And based on the discussion, as well as the information that is within the report, actually we think that we are very well satisfied with what we had submitted to the province and to the region on these particular areas. So again, things like smart growth, it does have a direct effect on our municipality and on our planning issues, and I thought a lot of the issues that we had were very good. The planning application fees was the next report. As council remembers, as part of our budget process, and in fact even before that, we realized that there had been an increase in a variety of planning fees that had been recommended, and there was a bit of discomfort amongst council. So it went back for a staff report. They came back with a modified series of changes to the rates that are going to be charged for this upcoming year. But we also are figuring out a process so that we can have a much clearer idea of what development fees, et cetera, within our planning department, what they should be, and I thought staff were quite accommodating. They're going to take a look at some of the major processes that we're going through, and also some of the minor ones, and get us some real numbers on what's really happening when it comes to handling changes within zoning or official plan amendments. So I thought that was a very good discussion. And a few councillor inquiries at the end. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to make a few small comments on the meeting. I thought it was very good to have the region come in, and certainly I was pleased to hear about the fact that the region is working on the development of a health corridor linking Brock, McMaster, Buffalo, University of Buffalo. So that's a very positive thing that they really seem to be working hard on. So that was very, very good. And I was pleased to see staff take the initiative to want to take a second gander at some of the planning things that were going on, and I think it's great that we can have staff open the conversation with the public and really work things through to a common happy place. So thank you.
Very good. I must say that with the third highest growth in the region at 3.5%, that Lincoln, there's certainly a good deal to be discussed, and having the region come out so that we can have more fulsome discussions with the information that they bring, I think is very valuable to the community. And I would encourage anyone who's interested in learning more about this to go online and read the Economic Development Planning Committee meeting minutes of January the 11th, and page 15 and 16 will give you, the minutes were very complete, and I think you'll find it a very interesting and worthwhile read. Ladies and gentlemen, the council, your pleasure on the motion. Motion's carried. Move on to the Bennett Hall lease agreement with the Beamsville Lions, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Rinjima and seconded by Councillor Pachariva that report SRC 16-01 regarding Bennett Hall lease agreement be received, and that Council authorize the execution of an agreement with the Beamsville and District Lions Club for the use of the town-owned Bennett Hall. Mr. Kirkopoulos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, just to Council, just to give you a brief overview, and Chuck will also be able to speak to this. This was one of the issues when I first joined the municipality that was brought to my attention in terms of an outstanding issue and an outstanding lease agreement that needed to be in place with the Beamsville Lions. I did meet with Mr. Cord Gary and yourself, Madam Mayor, to discuss the particular issues, as well as consulting with staff and the appropriate legal counsel to set forth what is effectively a short-term agreement with the Beamsville Lion to take us through this year and possibly next year if it's mutually agreed to, and allow us to complete our facilities review and look at what we're doing from a long-term perspective with all the facilities that we do own. Some of the major items that were included in this agreement that were really the focus of our negotiations were, first and foremost, some clarity on both capital and minor repairs roles and responsibilities. The previous agreement was probably not as clear as it maybe should have been in terms of responsibilities. The next item was really around the indemnification and insurance provisions that needed to be within an agreement. And lastly, it was just some record keeping from the municipality's perspective as it relates to the schedule events and what the purpose and use of the hall is during those events. So what you have before you is a report and a copy of an agreement that staff is recommending.
Thank you very much. Mr. Judson, do you have anything to add?
Through you, Honor. Yeah, at this point, I think we're prepared to move forward with the agreement. I've taken some steps as far as the facilities concerned, gaining access control, having a fire inspection done, having roofing contractors in, and I think it gives us better control over this asset moving forward.
Very good, thank you very much. Are there, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Foster?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank the Beams Alliance and staff for coming together and sitting down and working through this, and I'm sure it wasn't an easy process, and really glad to see this moving forward. So good work from staff's perspective, and thank you very much to the Beams Alliance for sitting with us.
Very good. Councillor Foster?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Easton. So the one point in this was number 10, and I think it's been mentioned, but it mentions that the Lions Club will use Bennett Hall for purposes of organizing and carrying out Lions Club activities and may rent space to other groups, organizations, etc. So my assumption from that is that should the facility be rented, the funds go to the Lions Club as opposed to anything coming back to the municipality. Is that the case?
Mr. Kirkopoulos?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, that's correct, Councillor.
Okay. Okay, I wasn't sure where the group was going with that, because I know there had been some concern about the rental of the facility, et cetera, and what we were going to get involved with. So is this, the second question is this going to be essentially the template for use with other service clubs or users of facilities and stuff like that within the municipality?
Mr. Kirkopoulos?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Foster. I would say there's certain elements of this contract that we definitely will be using, specifically around the indemnification and those sorts of things, as well as responsibilities around capital undertakings and state of good repair. I think as it relates to some of the other items in here, once we complete our facilities review, I think there's going to be an opportunity to look at these sorts of agreements again and determine, should we make some tweaks, should we course correct, should we look at where we improve and maybe where some things need to be changed. The only other comment I would add to that is I think in each of these cases we're going to have to look at them slightly different. There's some slightly unique circumstances with, I think, a number of the service providers that we deal with. So where possible, we want to streamline and make them consistent, but, be as flexible as we can, being respectful of some of the, whether it be legacy issues or grandfathered items that are in place as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor McMillan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Easton. Just a clarification on this issue of the Lions renting Bennett Hall and then collecting those fees for a rental. If those funds are to stay with the Lions Club, then could I get an explanation of item number 16, where it refers to that the club agrees to direct the rental funds and or donations to the Bennett Hall operating costs as required. Does that simply mean it stays with the Lions and goes into that particular fund, or is that coming back to the town?
Mr. Kirkopoulos?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor McMillan. I think if you look at item 10, it talks about on a cost recovery basis. So it's not a for-profit type of endeavor for the Lions. It's really at a cost recovery basis, which goes to some of the utility items. So, when you take that to item 16, you're correct. The funds that would be received as a result of rental funds or donations coming in are going to go to offset those operating costs.
I might also add that in the last meeting that Mr. Kirkopoulos and I had with Mr. Gary, that he brought us a financial statement that outlined all of their expenditures and revenues. And we were satisfied that there wouldn't be any accumulation of funds on their part. They were just barely squeaking through to pay their obligations with the utilities in particular that were rising pretty significantly. All right, your pleasure on the motion, councillors. None opposed, the motion is carried. Very good, and I know this went through a number of meetings, a number of CAOs. I'd like to thank Councillor Thompson for the work that he put in to help keep things on track. The Lions Club have been, they've been working with us diligently, and the staff helped us in a lot of ways to clarify some of the matters, and I'm very pleased with the outcome. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is regarding the redundant internet connection, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Foster, that report TR 16-01 regarding the 2016 capital project redundant internet connection be received as information, and that Council approve the installation of the redundant internet connection for Town Hall by Cogeco Inc. at a total cost of $30,000 plus HST. This is part of the 2016 budget deliberations, capital budget deliberations. Do you have anything further to add, Mr. Kirkopoulos?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll let Bob speak to that, but I think the one piece of good news that we have here is that the initial estimate of $40,000 as a result of our staff reaching out, John and Bob, is come in at $10,000 less because of some scheduling abilities and some scheduling issues that we're able to capitalize on. So that's why we wanted it before council so that we could move forward as early as tomorrow, actually.
Very good. Mr. Spadoni?
Just further to remind members of council, if you recall, during the budget discussion of both the capital budget and operating budget, a number of redundancies were identified that were being put in place to protect the town in case problems, that we'd be able to maintain our business capabilities. And so part of the setting up of the Emergency Operations Center and the Continuous Operations Center at the Fleming Center requires an improvement to our internet connection here. This is a redundant connection simply to provide that backup should something happen with the main one. In the operating budget, there was also the discussion of the increase which council approved for the monthly charges. This is the capital portion that was included in the capital budget, and they're trying to set up their work schedule for the next little while, take advantage of the slower months, so they were able to offer us this reduction in the cost if we were able to provide authorization as soon as possible. So we felt that we could take advantage of this. The dollars that are saved would then allow additional work or additional items to be purchased, part of the Emergency Operations Center. That will be coming forward at a future probably Finance and Administration meeting once staff review that whole project.
Any questions of Mr. Spadoni? Councillor Thompson? Councillor Foster?
Actually, not a question, but I just keep saying thank you to staff tonight, but I'm going to say it again because way to go. Like, thinking outside of what normally would occur and paying full pop for something. These folks went after something and got a good deal. That's a significant amount taken off, a quarter taken off that build, and I'm just pleased to see the staff taking that initiative, and it really speaks to them making things work properly here. So way to go. It's really good. Very pleased.
Very good. Councillor Foster.
Yeah, rah-rah. I am going to just mention one thing with it is I like the suggestion of staff for the remaining 10,000 that's within that, though. We did make a lot of decisions during the discussion on infrastructure and on technology, so I'm pleased that there's some view that we should be using some of those to help with the Emergency Operations Center setup as well. I think that's very wise to use those funds, and it's not outside the realm of what we did with budget anyway, because quite simply, this all ties together. This makes us a much better technological organization when this is all said and done. So, thank you.
Very good. Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. Thank you. There is no confirmation of compliance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. And we have a number of bylaws to deal with. I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor McMillan, that leave be given to introduce the following bylaws. Number 2016-01, to provide for borrowing for current expenditures not exceeding $20,970,000. That's $20,970,000, $20,970,000, sorry. And number 2016-02, to provide for interim tax levies for the year 2016. Number 2016-03, to authorize the execution of a site plan agreement with Angels Gate Winery Limited and to discharge a site plan agreement approved by bylaw 97-26. Number 2016-04, to authorize the execution of an agreement with the Beamsville and District Lions Club for the use of the Bennett Hall. Number 2016-05, to appoint a deputy clerk for the town of Lincoln. Any questions to any of the bylaws that are listed? None? Your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Thompson, that bylaws number 2016-01, 02, 03, 04, and 05 read a first time be now read a second and third time and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Any questions? Your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. Are there any notice of motion? There being none, are there any announcements? Councillor Foster.
Two things. First of all, Councillor Mangiam and I are having a meeting coming up on the 21st. It's our ward meeting. It's going to be held at the Fleming Centre. It starts at 7 o'clock, I believe, correct, Diane, as we're going through. So for those of you in Ward 1 that are interested in coming out and A, getting a cup of coffee, and B, talking to us about some of the issues going on here within town, we'll be more than happy to have the discussion. Secondly, the Winter Wine Festival was on this past weekend in Jordan. The mayor, of course, was busy doing her fashion statement once again. Unfortunately, I missed that this year. I do apologize. My wife and I attended the dinner with Lynn Crawford, the chef, in the evening, and I'll tell you, that was an awfully good dinner. So next evening we had hot dogs, and I was very disappointed. So anyway, it was very good. Thank you.
Excellent. Anyone else? No, it was probably a good thing that you weren't there to heckle me too much. Modeling isn't exactly something that I've had on my resume. However, one has to support the community. There's no closed session this evening, but I do have an announcement here that the clerk just passed me. Just to remind members of the public that there is a public hearing regarding the road allowance closing and sale moratorium and new policy, and it's on February 29th, 2016 at 7 p.m. It will be here in the chambers at the Council Business Planning Committee of the Whole meeting. So there are a number of people in the community that are very interested in this, and we hope that there will be a good turnout. No closed session, as I said. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Pachariva.
Thanks, Your Worship. I just thought I would remind everyone of the Escarpment Crossing PIC to be held Thursday night, January 21st. At the Mountain View Christian Reformed Church on Highway 8 or Regional Road 81 from 7 to 9.
Yes, that'll be another one of great interest to the community. Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. So further to that, that's the same night as Councillor Foster and my award meeting, so people can go to that and then come straight to us. 2 birds with 1 stone.
So early supper, folks. Escarpment Crossing first and ward meeting, which, by the way, I'm very pleased that the ward meetings are continuing on. I don't know how many people turn out, but, you know, if 1 or 2 people turn out with questions and suggestions, it's certainly worth the time. So I thank Ward 1 councillors for continuing on with their tradition. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers, seconded by Councillor Foster, that leave be given to introduce the following bylaw, number 2016-06, to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by council resolution. Any questions to the motion? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. A motion moved by Councillor McMillan, seconded by Councillor Rinchima, that bylaw number 2016-06, read a first time, be now read a second and third time and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. And there being no further business, I would like to thank everyone for their interest in the business of your town. You live in Lincoln, where every citizen strives to be a good neighbor, and children are encouraged to achieve their very best. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. I want to know whether did I break a record? Did I break a record?